We're speaking this morning to Madam Carolyn Meub, former Executive Director of Pure Water for the World. Good morning. Well, good evening,
Well,
Carolyn.
good morning to you.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Thank you so much for agreeing to this video call all the way from America.
Well, I am honored to be with you and your listeners this morning.
Now, Carolyn, first and foremost, can you tell us a little bit more about Pure Water for the World? When
Sure.
and how it started?
Sure. Pure Water for the World was started. The origins of Pure Water was about 25 years ago when a dentist from southern Vermont, USA, which is up near the Canadian border, went on a medical mission to El Salvador. And what he realized is he could be going back year after year, which he did, but he would realize that people would be suffering from the same health issues, which were waterborne diseases. And it's not really great conversation over breakfast, but you know, when you drink bad water, you get diarrheal diseases, and that stunts your growth. And there's a whole lot of health issues that go with it. So he came back to his Rotary Club and really got his Rotary Club involved in doing something with water, because water is the basis for good health. Because we all know without it, there's no life. And so the Rotary Club, which is probably a member of has about 40 members, founded the predecessor organization to what became Pure Water for the World. And then as their work grew, they realized that the work of providing clean water in El Salvador really took on a bigger role than what volunteers, you had doctors and lawyers and accountants. And so in 2000, or late 1999, they incorporated Pure Water for the World, which became its own nonprofit organization. For many years after that, the Brattleboro Rotarians were very, very active in it. But the origins of Pure Water came when someone, a very dedicated Rotarian, very dedicated man, realized that all the work a medical team could do wasn't getting at the underlying problems, which is clean water. And the other thing that's just as important, which is now what Pure Water does, is sanitation.
Yeah.
Certainly the lack of sanitation and amounts of open defecation really are one of the leading causes of contaminated water.
Personally though, Carolyn, why did you choose to be a part of this initiative?
Because I'm in Vermont and I'm very active in Rotary here, I certainly knew about the work. And I was finishing up a year-long assignment with Rotary as district governor and wanted to get back to, I really think, what my roots were. I remember reading as a child. So anyways, I was trying to figure out what I want to do. And I read somewhere, to figure out what you want to do, go back to look at the books that you read as a child. Before your teacher said you shouldn't, you could, your parents led you in a direction. And the books I loved, I remember sitting in the children's of the library, sitting on the floor reading biographies, the short ones for elementary school kids. And I love the work of Albert Schweitzer and other people that dedicated their lives to helping other people. And so when I was in this transition about 21 years ago, I remembered that statement and I remember reading those books, and then I was offered the job and I said, I'll take it. So I really felt that all the work I had done prior to that really put me in a position to run this small organization. It was smaller then, I don't have a water background, but I have a lot of backgrounds in managing nonprofits. Okay. And I never regretted it one moment. Was I frustrated at times? Yes. But
this is your calling.
Yes, I do believe that.
Yeah. But what are some of the challenges, though, Carolyn, of running a nonprofit organization, especially one that deals with the lack of clean water in other countries, in developing countries? How do
Well,
you fund these projects?
well, I'll try to take that question apart because
Yeah.
there's two pieces. Is how do you run it?
Mhm.
A funny anecdote. Pure Water worked in Haiti, and then after the earthquake in Haiti 11 years ago, there was a lot of publicity in my hometown. And I remember talking to somebody, and I had just had a rough day. I was dealing with staff issues and I was dealing with insurance issues. And she said, "How was your day?" Because she just thinks I was just the water goddess, right? And I said, "Oh, I've had a bad day. I've had all this." And she was so shocked because I think she thought when you work in nonprofits that because you are doing good, that you feel good all the time. And running a nonprofit organization is like running a business. You have to deal with, we have a dedicated staff, you have staffing issues. You have to make sure we have to comply with laws of 3 countries, the United States, Haiti, and Honduras. You have fundraising issues. The mission is what propelled me, and the children in these countries are what propelled me. But it's like running a business. You have to tend to the details because without that, you don't have an organization. Therefore, you can't fulfill your mission. So I would just sort of sum up that running a nonprofit is like running a business. It's just you get income differently than, and your mission is different.
Yeah.
The fundraising piece, without having a big benefactor in your pocket, for a young nonprofit is challenging. Most nonprofits in the U.S. are under $1 million, and then you jump up. So the key is to raising money is having the right product, because I really believe that what we do in the communities in which we work, we have a duty. We have 2 duties. We have a duty to be a good steward to the people we work with, because they're relying on us to give them clean, safe drinking water that they have an investment in. So we have a duty to do the very best we know how to do. And we have an investment to the donors. So the more we have positive impacts, I think that helps raise money, and that takes time. But you have different strategies for individuals, for Rotary clubs, for church groups, for organizations. Maybe there's a group of your listeners that would love to make a big difference in a completely different part of the world. And it's always a challenge. You're asking people to invest their money with you, and there's a lot of places they can invest their money.
Yeah.
Other nonprofits in the U.S., everyone knows, we have a presidential election. A lot of money went into that. So people have choices to where they put their money. Election years tend to be the hardest for everybody. But as your reputation grows, and you're strategic about it, like what we do in Honduras, our reputation is very strong. Now we have 2 grants with UNICEF. It doesn't cover everything, but working with UNICEF and shows that, to me, that we're getting recognized by international organizations that know and appreciate our work.
Actually,
I don't know
that,
if I've answered your question or if I've gone on too long.
if you don't mind me asking, don't mind me chiming in.
Sure.
You mentioned the grants don't cover everything. So
yeah. So what I was saying is, so what happens is with some grants, you get grants that will only cover the hardware, like the toilet or the water system. Some don't cover our software, which to us is the most important thing. That you need education. We're really in the business of changing habits. people don't know what they can't see on their fingers and their hands can make them sick. Fecal matter is a primary cause of bacterial disease. So we're into changing habits, into washing hands, how to keep your source water clean. There's some environmental training of not cutting down trees to protect your water source, how you manage livestock on your farms. So, and there are some grants that understand all that, and many of them do now, and they're covering that. Sometimes they don't cover contingencies. Sometimes they don't, not all of them. I mean, there's a big, vast world of grants. Some don't cover administration.
Yeah.
So you have to, as an executive director, we don't want to take shortcuts, because taking shortcuts means the water system won't last or people won't know how to use it. So it's big on making sure the products work right, that they understand how it works. And the key is, this is something that many don't, is you need to do a community needs assessment. You have to find out what the community wants, not just that they may need clean, safe drinking water, because sometimes you can go into a community and see that and talk to the health clinic, but they may say, we really need to have improved roads to get our food to market, or our kids need computers, or we need solar systems to plug in our cell phones. We're not into handouts. We're there to work in partnership with the communities that they want the solution and they are invested in it, because when we're gone, they have to know how to run it, how to manage it. So that is an important piece, and sometimes grants will cover it. The other thing grants may not cover are the monitoring. So you do something, you put it in, you think you've done it right, but unless you go back 6 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year,
Maintenance, right? Yeah.
you don't know. And then you learn from that, and then again, you make modifications to, have that improved product and get to a point that you're delivering the best that you know. And the only way you know is to go back and check your work.
So it's not as easy as just installing a clean water system or filtration system
And
for
hands
that
off.
village and say,
Yeah.
goodbye, thank you. Speaking about the communities that PWW have helped, how do you choose which communities to help?
That certainly has evolved since the beginning. The way to do it is, and what's happened in Honduras and has happened in Haiti, is communities come to us.
Okay.
Either the mayor, right now, there's a big effort with the mayor in Marietta, Honduras, who found us. We don't work right nearby them. They've worked with the Pan American Health Organization. So the mayor wants us there. We're working with them, and the need is great. So you can't go in and say, I'm Carolyn from the US, I'm here to help, or I'm Carolyn from Malaysia and I'm here to help. Chances are that won't work.
Okay.
The way it works is you really need investment of the government, because they're the ultimate responsibility, not any nonprofit organization. So you work with the community. You may have to train some of their staff to increase their capacity, because these governments don't have enough money. That's the initiative that I'm personally involved with in Haiti, is really working with the community and building up their capacity of the water agencies, their national agencies, or the local water board, because there's not enough donor dollar in the world to keep going back and going back and going back. So you really want it sustainable.
Okay. Can you share with us a story about how these pure water projects have changed a community or even an individual's life for the better? Something that is really memorable to you.
Oh, I have so many memorable
Too many,
ones.
yeah.
How it's changed the community. Well, we did in Troas, Honduras, we usually do household water treatment. which is people at the end of the road that won't get a water system anytime soon. And what stories I hear from them is these homeowners is for the first time they have clean drinking water. And I remember seeing, I have the picture of this little girl somewhere. We went to visit her and she had kidney diseases, and her dad was talking about, through a translator, how he couldn't afford to keep bringing her to the hospital. But why he wanted his community to get involved with pure water is because he knew that clean water was going to clean drinking water was going to improve his daughter's life. And it did over time. And I got feedbacks on that. And I think those personal stories of hearing and seeing this little girl sickly. I have another story of a child you could tell was just dehydrated and she looked really sick. And they didn't have safe, clean drinking water. Then they got a quick intervention so they could, because she was sickly. And within 2 or 3 weeks, she was eating and she was healthy and she had put on pounds. And those are the personal stories. But where we're putting in this water system, we went down to make sure that the villagers knew what was involved, and they were going to cut through the jungle to make a swath for the pipe, and they were going to dig the trench. And we didn't think it was possible. And this woman stood up. And women tend to be the water people that are really more advocate about water because they're the ones taking care of sick kids. And she looked defiantly at us and said, "I will make sure it gets done." And she and everyone else in the community, I don't know if you know, a couple miles, cleaned the jungle, dug the trench, laid the pipe, did what it took to get this project done on time. And I think we probably see in our own lives different things. When somebody really wants something good, they're going to make sure and try to make sure it gets done. And they did. I go into health clinics and it's mostly anecdotal, and I will say, okay, what are your diarrheal rates? You know, when people come in, and one clinician, one woman that worked there said, "I used to have the diarrheal medicine up on the shelves. Now I don't need as much and it's underneath the counter." You know, economic impact, that if you're in Haiti, if you're not spending 5 goods, which is their local currency, which may be 25 cents for water, 5 gallons of water, then, or you're not going and fetching the water, you have more time to sell your food product at the market, and your income doubles. So those are the stories. Girls who can go to school when they menstruate. Because they have a place to wash their hands. And I've heard several stories about that. And as a woman, you can relate to that.
Yeah.
So it has, I think the sum total of that makes me realize, I'm going to get sort of weepy, but, you know, not only what good we did, but how the things that are so essential and so important in our lives take on such meaning for people. It really has made me a much better person, and made me more appreciative of all that I have and all that I really want to give.
Yeah. And it's not just about drinking clean water or being healthier. It's about changing their lives, about changing their livelihoods.
Right. And they've changed my life more than I can't say that, but they've changed my lives immensely. These people that probably obviously don't even remember maybe meeting me, or stories I've heard about.
Yeah.
It's very, they inspire me. I guess that's the best way they really inspire me.
Okay. And we understand that Pure Water for the World continues to help the vulnerable communities, even through this global pandemic. Why is access to clean water especially important right now, especially in the developing countries?
One thing that we're told all the time: wash your hands. If you don't have clean water, you don't have soap, you can't wash your hands. They
Something
also,
which we take for granted, right? Wash your hands.
oh,
It's so easy to
right,
just wash our hands, right?
right. And they have done studies, which are difficult. I digress, of how many people in developed countries don't. We take it for granted. But
Yeah.
so I think there's a lot of things. If you live, is they don't have the healthcare system. Many of the hospitals and the places we work don't even have safe water. They have not enough water. They don't have toilets. They don't have hand washing stations. So one is you don't want to get sick. Two is clean and those hygiene practices. If the only intervention you gave was teaching people how to wash with clean water, I think 47%, as I recall, diarrhea rates would decrease. So a lot of the work we've been doing is working with municipalities, putting in hand washing stations. So as people came from the capital and went to a regional capital, the national capital, regional capital, and there's like police barricades and police checks as you go through.
Mhm.
The people have hand washing stations as they interact with people. I think that all of it is safe. The healthier you are, the better you're off you're able to fight it. So if you're drinking clean, safe drinking water, and have improved septics or latrines, which help keep you healthier, you're able to fight it. I think it also makes us realize in the developed countries, and cases are rampant here in the US, that it's just common practice. Wash your hands, keep distance. So I think in these countries, what we can do is we've done education. We do a lot of education and training. I think that's the one thing that as our program evolved from providing the filter, then doing sanitation, it's that education, that building capacity and building local knowledge. And I think that's what we do. We're doing a lot of training, a lot of remote training to teachers on various, health issues. I mean, you have COVID and then you have the general health that we all have to struggle with and maintain.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking of COVID, do you have any ongoing projects that COVID has kind of put a pause on right now?
Well, it has early on because of the staff and say in Honduras there were shutdowns, so you couldn't go. I mean, they really couldn't leave their homes to go. So if you don't have the staff, that's a big impact. People who are staff that lives out in more of the rural areas, they could work, but they still have to follow, government guidelines. In Haiti, pretty much the same when the government was shut down. It limits donors to go to the countries, but that's not really who does the work. It's the staff that does the work, and I think they have to follow their national guidelines, and that's the biggest impact: is staff not being able to do the work they do.
So, Carolyn, in your opinion, what would be the best way to solve the water woes in these underserved communities? How can we help as well as people living on this earth?
The best way, that's various levels. One is it's more political will, because the solutions are there. Toilets haven't changed much in the last
100 years.
You might have more indoor plumbing. It's a political will. So that's one level, getting the national leaders in these countries where they may not have a lot of money and they may have a lot of other issues, to make sure that's a priority. A lot of these countries don't have the resources, so there are big, the World Bank and other entities can come in and try to help them with infrastructure. The other way is getting corporations, individuals, maybe to come together and say, I want to adopt this village, where the mayor, we have a village in the Marietta that needs clean, safe drinking water. And I think it'd be wonderful if your listeners wanted to come together, learn more about a specific village, and we can get them that information and say, okay, what's it going to take? Raise the money. And then when they can travel, if they have an interest, go to Honduras and meet the people and see what they've done with their, and then for the big sign unveiling. But that's one way, and a way to get people involved, because not everybody's a government minister that can maybe have some influence. But I think for your listeners, if they're in corporations, or if they're a Rotary Club, or if they're involved with schools, wherever they are, come together and, you know, have the light coming off the name of your show. Just name it after your show. See the light.
Okay. So yeah, that's how we can all get involved and help maybe make a difference in these communities.
Right. And they would make a huge difference. Oh, they will greet you with, you know, they're so generous that, you know, I think you probably notice people with the least tend to be the most generous. They might give you a papaya, they may give you a piece of fruit, but it's something that means fruit they won't eat. But they're very, very grateful.
All right.
And they earn it. I mean, it was just not a handout. They earn it. They have an investment in it. They want it. They contribute to the management and the government, and they contribute a small piece to it. Or they're just there to help them go get over the finish line and have clean, safe water.
Well, thank you so much, Carolyn, for speaking
This
to
has been
us.
delightful. Thank you. And
Thank you so much for the good work that you do.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And thank you for thinking some of these wonderful memories I have, because it makes me realize how fortunate I was.
You're no longer with Pure Water now?
No, I retired. I'm on the board of directors, and so I'm still an advisor to them.
Yeah.
But it's a little different when you're doing it every day. Then, you know, you have to pay attention to everything. But I love the organization. I'm thrilled to be on the board to help grow the organization, so we can keep with the people we work with, in the partnership with the people we work with, improve people's lives through good health.